What's alarming is that this situation didn't strike out of nowhere. Meteorologists had already warned that this year's rainy season would be brutal. But the scale and speed of this flood event have far exceeded all predictions. Some areas recorded over 300 millimeters of rainfall in just a few hours. Overwhelming urban drainage systems, streets turned into rivers, vehicles were submerged, and people waded chest-deep in muddy water. Social media in China was flooded with videos of desperate citizens calling for help, mixed with frustration and helplessness. This year's flood is not just a meteorological phenomenon. It is a test of China's disaster management system. It is a mirror reflecting what has been forgotten in the rush to modernize, sustainable planning, environmental respect, and above all, people. Hundreds of thousands of people were forced from their homes in the dead of night. They don't know where they'll sleep tomorrow, or who will help them. Their stories must not fade into the background noise of the news cycle. These are not statistics, they are real human lives, and their pain must be heard. This should be a wake-up call, for China, and for all of us. In an age of climate change, if we don't rethink how we coexist with nature, disasters like these will only become more frequent, more severe, and more tragic. Let's keep these people in our thoughts. Let's share their stories, not just their suffering, and let's hope that truth, compassion, and humanity will not be drowned by the rising waters. This raises the question, how is it that China, with all its financial power and advanced technology, still cannot prevent disasters from repeating themselves? Is this truly a force of nature, or the consequence of unsustainable urban planning and reckless interference with the natural environment? This isn't the first time. It's part of a tragic cycle. Floods strike. Homes are lost. People cry out. The media stays quiet. The government promises assistance. And then, silence. Until the next disaster hits. China once proudly touted mega-projects like the Three Gorges Dam, presented as symbols of national strength and man's triumph over nature. But nature seems unwilling to yield so easily. Record-breaking rains, shifting river patterns, and collapsing mountains are reminding us all, no structure is invincible when humanity oversteps its limits. The Chinese government quickly activated a Level 2 emergency response, one of the highest levels in their disaster response system. Tens of thousands of soldiers, police officers, and rescue workers were deployed to submerged zones. High-capacity water pumps, helicopters, and inflatable boats were rushed to the front lines. Still, rescue efforts were severely hampered by poor weather and difficult terrain. One touching example comes from Sichuan, where a group of college students bought inflatable boats with their own money and waded through floodwaters to rescue elderly people stranded in a nursing home. When asked why they did it, one said, "Because if we don't, no one else will." These grassroots efforts reveal that human decency and solidarity still shine, even in disaster, but they also expose an uncomfortable truth. Public trust in the government's ability to manage crises is eroding. It's hard to fathom that the world's second-largest economy, with cutting-edge satellite and weather monitoring systems, still fails to issue timely flood warnings or provide effective evacuation plans for vulnerable populations. Maybe the issue isn't technology, but mindset. A mindset that values image over substance, propaganda over preparedness, and political stability over human safety. We can't control the weather, but we can control how we prepare, how we respond, and how we treat people in the aftermath. When those responsibilities are neglected, natural disasters become human tragedies. In some cases, local authorities made the decision to release floodwaters without notice, especially in low-lying rural areas, in order to protect central city districts. In Hubei province, such a decision turned entire villages into lakes overnight. No prior warning was given. No organized evacuation plan implemented. Farmers lost homes, crops, and animals. Everything in a single night. In recent days, once again, China finds itself facing the wrath of nature. Torrential rains have poured down, triggering severe floods and causing widespread crises across multiple provinces. Hundreds of thousands of residents were forced to evacuate in the dead of night, while emergency forces struggled to respond and protect lives and property. From bustling cities like Chongqing, putting immense pressure on levee systems. Continuous days of intense rainfall left many areas vulnerable. Landslides struck, roads were cut off, bridges were swept away. In the darkness of night, with emergency sirens blaring, long lines of people rushed to evacuate, clutching the few belongings they could carry, a haunting scene. Reminiscent of past disasters the Chinese people had hoped were behind them. For years, dams and hydroelectric plants have sprung up across the country. Rivers have been rerouted, forests cleared from highways and high-rises. This has severely disrupted natural ecosystems. Now, nature is responding, and humanity is paying the price. Environmental degradation is another crucial factor. Concrete has replaced soil, forests have been flattened, rivers narrowed, the land can no longer absorb rainwater. Flooding becomes inevitable. In 2021, the city of Guangxi was submerged within hours, killing over 300 people. Today, similar scenarios are playing out in even more regions. Amid the chaos, the people are left to fend for themselves. Volunteer groups, local communities, and student unions have launched their own relief efforts. They organize supply deliveries, bring in food, life jackets, flashlights. They do the work the system. Despite the urgency, many citizens are asking difficult questions. Where was the early warning? Why were some areas not informed in time? Why do large infrastructure projects like the Three Gorges Dam, once hailed as flood-proof wonders, fail to protect the people? Among the hardest hit areas this time are Anhui and Henan provinces, regions that suffered devastating floods just a few years ago. Levees, already weaker, are giving way. On the night of August 2nd, the nearly 100-meter section of a levee on the Wai River collapsed, forcing the emergency evacuation of over 20,000 residents in just hours. One local described it: "We heard a huge crash, and then the water came like a monster. We barely escaped with the clothes on our backs." A tearful villager said, "We're not afraid of floods. We've lived with rivers all our lives. But we're afraid of being treated like disposable lives. They saved the city by drowning us. But who will save us? These aren't isolated incidents. They reflect a systemic issue, one in which human lives, especially in rural areas, are often treated as expendable in the pursuit of maintaining control and appearances." Even worse, national media outlets remain suspiciously silent or offer limited coverage. The real stories are told by residents on social media, stories that are often quickly censored or deleted, disrupting public order.